Spring is when many sellers accidentally lose tens of thousands of dollars, and they don't even realize it until it's too late. It usually starts the same way. A seller sees the market heating up. Homes are selling quickly, agents are talking about multiple offers, and suddenly it feels like the perfect moment to push the price. So they list their property just a little higher than the data suggests, thinking there's room to negotiate. And for the first few days, everything feels fine. The photos look great, the listing is live, friends and family say the price makes sense, but then something subtle starts happening. The showings slow down, buyers stop booking visits, agents stop calling, and the seller starts asking very uncomfortable question. Did we price it too high? What most people don't realize is that overpricing in spring doesn't just delay a sale, it destroys the most valuable moment your listing will ever have. Today, I want to explain why that happens and how sellers in Montreal can avoid making one of the most expensive mistakes in real estate. Hi, I'm Aguinaga, Montreal real estate broker and investor. Every spring, I see the same pattern play out. Sellers hear that spring is the best time to sell, and that part is true. Buyers are active, the weather improves, and the market generally feels optimistic. But there's another side of that spring that most people overlook. The same conditions that brings more buyers also brings more listings. Inventory increases quickly, and when buyers suddenly have more choices, they become more selective, not less. This is when pricing strategy becomes incredibly important. Because in a competitive spring market, your goal isn't just to be on the market. Your goal is to capture attention immediately, and that attention is not unlimited. Every property has what I call a momentum window. It's the first 1 or 2 weeks after your listing goes live, when your property is still new to the market. During this time, your home appears in saved searches, agents who have been waiting for the right opportunity bring their buyers through, and curiosity is at its highest. Buyers who have been watching the market closely suddenly see something new, and they move quickly because they know other people are watching too. That early energy is extremely powerful. It's when sellers have the most leverage, the most attention, and the best chance of creating competition between buyers. But that window is fragile. If the market feels that the property is slightly overpriced, buyers hesitate. Instead of rushing to see the home, they pause. They tell themselves they'll keep an eye on it, they'll wait to see if the price changes or if the seller becomes flexible. And the moment buyers start watching instead of visiting, the momentum begins to fade. One of the biggest misconceptions sellers have is the idea that listing high simply creates negotiation room. On paper, that sounds logical. If buyers think the home is expensive, they can just make a lower offer. But that's not how buyer behavior actually works today. Modern buyers move quickly through listings. They scroll through photos, compare prices, and filter options within seconds. If a property appears expensive compared to similar homes in the same price band, many buyers simply move on, or it doesn't show in their price band. They don't visit, they don't negotiate, they don't test the seller's flexibility. They just eliminate the property from their shortlist and focus on homes that feel more aligned with the market. And that's where overpricing becomes dangerous. Because once a property loses attention during its first weeks on the market, it becomes very difficult to regain it. Another reason overpricing is particularly risky in the spring is the speed at which new listings enter the market. During winter months, inventory is relatively limited. Buyers might only have a handful of options within a certain price range. But spring changes that dynamic very quickly. Every week, new homes appear, each one competing for the same group of buyers. So, when a seller launches a property slightly overpriced, they often assume they have time to adjust later if necessary. But the market doesn't wait. A week later, another property appears, then another. Suddenly, buyers have 5 or 6 alternatives in the same price band. When those alternatives feel better aligned with market expectations, attention shifts immediately. Your property doesn't have to be bad for this to happen. It simply has to feel less competitive compared to what else is available. And in real estate, buyers are always comparing. As time passes, something else begins to influence buyer behavior: perception. In the early days of a listing, buyers approach the property with curiosity. It's new, it's fresh, and they assume other people might be interested as well. But once a property sits on the market for several weeks, the psychology changes. Buyers start asking questions. Why hasn't it sold yet? Is there something wrong with it? Did the seller misprice it? Even if the home itself is perfectly fine, the longer it sits without strong activity, the more buyers assume there is flexibility in negotiation. Instead of competing, they begin testing the seller's willingness to reduce the price. And that shift in perception is where sellers lose leverage. The sellers who succeed in spring are not the ones who chase the highest possible number on day one. They're the ones who understand positioning. A well-positioned property feels attractive within its price band. Buyers look at the listing and feel motivated to schedule a visit because it appears competitive relative to the alternatives. That early traffic creates energy in the market. Agents start talking about the listing, buyers begin noticing that other people are interested, and suddenly the property gains momentum. Momentum is powerful. It creates urgency, and urgency is what allows sellers to negotiate from strength. Ironically, the sellers who price strategically often achieve stronger final results than the sellers who begin too high. Because when buyers compete, the market pushes the price upwards naturally. I recently worked with a seller who initially believed their home should be priced well above nearby comparable properties. From their perspective, the upgrades they had made justified a higher number. When we reviewed the active listings in the area together, it became clear that launching above those comparables would place the property in a crowded and very competitive price band. Instead, we positioned the home slightly more strategically within the market range. The result was immediate traffic. Agents began scheduling visits quickly, buyers felt confident exploring the property, and within the first week, serious interest developed. In the end, the property sold at a stronger number than the seller expected. Not because we pushed the price higher, but because we positioned it where buyers were excited to compete. Spring markets reward momentum, not optimism. Overpricing may feel like a safe strategy at first, but it often delays the very attention sellers need to succeed. The goal is not to launch high and hope buyers negotiate. The goal is to launch strategically and allow the market to respond. Because when a property captures attention early, the market begins working in the seller's favor. If you're planning to sell this spring in Montreal, the most important decision you'll make isn't the listing date, it's how your property is positioned on day one. Book a 15-minute listing strategy call and we'll evaluate your home, your competition, and your price band before you go live. Because when the launch is done correctly, the market does the heavy lifting for you. I'm Aguinaga, your Montreal real estate expert, and I'm here to make sure your home competes the right way.